Hey everyone, Cole here from the AdVentureists, and today we're talking about the financials of Phase 1 of Walden. Now, under Phase 1, we are developing 2 yurts that are going to be off-grid and fairly luxurious just south of the Grand Canyon. In today's video, we're going to go over the details of how much we plan to spend on the project, how much we plan to make on the project, and all the details in between. If this sounds interesting at all to you, stick around. All right, so I know I'm gonna lose a few of you as soon as we start talking about numbers, so I'm just gonna give you a total overview and a summary of what we're talking about. So our total project cost is $315,000 for Phase 1 of Walden. We're gonna have a net operating income of $76,240, which equates to a return on investment of 24.2%. If that's all you're here for, feel free to leave the video. If you want a little more details, stick around. So the first detail we want to talk about is annual income, which is the fun part. So if we assume that we have 2 yurts operating at 365 days a year with 50% occupancy and a $250 per night stay per yurt, we are going to have an annual income of $91,250. The next part is the not so fun part. This is the expenses category. So because we're off-grid, we're gonna have additional expenses to accommodate for off-grid solar. So we're gonna factor in replacement of the panels, the batteries, the inverters, and the generator, the 4 big ones. So for the panels, we're factoring in $320 a year that we're gonna be saving up for replacement costs. The batteries, we're gonna factor in $1,500 a year. The inverter, we're gonna factor in $700 a year, and the generator, we're gonna factor in $240 a year. Now, all of this is based off of life expectancies of this equipment, and we're doing a life cycle cost analysis on the equipment. So essentially, we wanna factor in replacing these as we go, so we're not getting stuck with a $50,000 expense in 10, 15 years. Now, the next major expense category is just yurt maintenance. So we're factoring in 4.9% of the total cost of the yurts, which is $7,350 per year for both of them together. And this cost is to simply maintain the yurts. Since our site is on some acreage, we do want to factor in some overall site maintenance as well. So we are factoring in $2,400 for this for the year, so about $200 a month. And this is for us to be clearing some trees, maintaining the roadways, and just doing some general maintenance around the property. So our total maintenance and CapEx for this project is $12,510 a year. In addition to this, we want to factor in utilities costs. So just because we have off-grid solar doesn't mean we don't have some additional utilities. Specifically, we're going to be hauling water into the property, which will be a monthly expense. And we are also going to be having propane delivered to the property for hot water heating. So these are 2 categories that we want to keep in mind, and we are budgeting $2,500 per year for this as well, so that we can account for that and we can make sure that we have that budgeted into the monthly costs of the project. So all in all, for both yurts and the entire property, we're looking at about $15,010 is what our spreadsheet's saying in annual costs to maintain everything, which sounds like a lot of money. Again, we're factoring in that a lot of these expenses aren't going to happen at one time and likely aren't going to happen for years, but we just want to have that buffer built into there so that we can build it into our numbers, and so we don't get hit with a big expense and we can actually save up for these things as we go. So I know I mentioned earlier that our total development costs for Phase 1 are going to be $315,000. I just want to break that up a little bit. I know a lot of people, when they hear us say we're building 2 off-grid yurts, assume it's going to be much less expensive than that. But the fact of the matter is, to build everything correctly, it's not cheap, and you want to do it the right way. So the first major cost is land. We paid $35,000 for our property, and we think that's a deal. We love our piece of property and we're excited to develop it. For permitting and design, we spent $20,000 getting proper permitting done for this. On the yurts themselves, we have a budget of $150,000 for both of them, $75,000 each. For the road, we're budgeting $15,000. For the water system, so supplying water and the water storage tanks, we're budgeting $5,000. For solar for both yurts, we're budgeting $50,000. And for the foundations and decks, we're budgeting $20,000, so $10,000 each. And for the septic tank that's going to be shared by both of them, we're budgeting $20,000. So the overall total development costs are $315,000. So again, just to summarize all of this, we're looking at spending about $315,000 on phase 1 of Walden. Our net operating income is $76,240, and our return on investment is 24.2%. Now, I just want to be really clear about one thing. These are projections. So any of this can change and anyone can mess with projections to benefit themselves. But we feel like we're being relatively conservative with this. And if we raise it to 80% occupancy, we can get a ridiculous return. If we lower it to 30% occupancy, we're still making some money. But we're comfortable with these numbers, put as much research as we possibly can before making these projections. So what do you think about our numbers? Do you think we're spending too much on this project or too little? Do you think we're overestimating how much we can make on it? Or do you think we're underestimating? Let us know what you think, and if you think our expenses are in line with what you'd anticipate, or if you have any input and you think we're missing something that's totally obvious. So we do have all the information laid out for phase 2 as well, which is our campground development. We're gonna have 12 campsites, glamping sites, and our projections on that and our expenses on that I'd love to share with you next time. So if you wanna see all that information, keep an eye out for the next video, and I'll talk to you next time.